This is Bob Clarkson. Is that so? Do you know what it takes to experience peace? And do you really even know what peace would be defined as? And maybe there's a chance some of your disturbance is because you really haven't defined what you mean by peace or considered how you would actually achieve it or considered maybe the things that you do that are actually obstacles to achieving peace. Now, peace is obviously a relationship concept. And dispeace starts with the argument between two humans who have the potential to agree or disagree, and the disagreement of opinion on fact or whatever uh, creates a disturbance and kind of an obstacle to the relationship. Now, we don't have to let differences of opinion or differences of understanding of truth separate us from anyone else, but it tends to be one of the things that moves us toward dispeace, or shall I say, even enemies and wars. Now, there's a lot of problem going on right now in the world and a lot of concern, I think, at least here in America, about it looks like we're maybe teetering on the brink of a war with the whole world. And it doesn't just seem that far out. A lot of dispeace, a lot of disturbance is evident in nearly every life I encounter. My friends, my acquaintances. I don't have any enemies anymore, but no matter how distant they are from me in relationship on the far outer band of I've never even met them to the dearest. And when it comes down to this whole concept of peace, it goes back to the relationship and how much disturbance or how much more peace tends toward war than just a disturbance is the magnitude of the number of people in contradiction to one another, in conflict with each other. So if you're at each other's throats, peace is not going to be happening, at least at that moment. Now, there is such a thing as peace in the midst of the storm. We sing songs about that, we talk about that, but you can have peace with just one other person. We'll just take it down to the individual personal level. You can have peace while having a very, shall I say, lively argument. Now, a lot of people can't do that or think they can't do that, but it isn't about thinking that you can't that ever enables you to do anything. If you think you can't do something, there's a good chance you won't even try. And I guarantee you, if you don't even try, you won't fail, but you won't get anything done either. So, when you come down to this idea of peace, what is peace to you? Well, peace for me used to be about no conflicts and arguments going on. Peace used to be about nobody getting in trouble. Peace used to be about everybody kind of behaving in an appropriate manner as best I could figure out what that meant, appropriate manner. And my definition of appropriate manner is obviously different from yours. Everyone over there on the other side of this camera. So peace comes down to, in my estimation, a matter of choice. Now we're going to go back up to the macro level. We're looking at a global environment where Russia's fighting a war against Ukraine, and the people in the Middle East, there are factions warring against others. All through Europe, there's a whole lot of conflict going on religiously between the Muslim faith and the Christian faiths and all that kind of stuff, and the strong commingling of those in the same large area. Here in America, it's about politics and opinions of personalities of the leadership instead of are we getting things done. But my lack of peace is sourced in myself. I have opinions, and when they matter enough to me that if yours are different from mine just enough, I may push you away and say, I won't be your friend. I don't even want to talk to you again. Let's just agree to not see each other. You might be stuck in seeing them in some kind of public space you both frequent, but you can have kind of this pact just to avoid each other. Well, again, it comes down to your definition of peace, and a large part of the definition of peace is your definition of right and wrong. Now, we all in Adam partook of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Every one of us is born with the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. There may be fine-tuning differences where some things I might classify as good, you define as bad, but there's a core of issues that nearly everyone on the planet agrees with, that these are things that we should do and these are things that we should not do. So in order to try to maintain good character, we associate the good character with these are the things you do and these are the things you don't. If you're a person of good character and integrity, then we end up actually creating dispeace by trying to force people to behave according to the should list, do these things, or not misbehave on doing the things that are on the this is what you should not do list. So even today, I was in a prayer meeting, and it was like there was a lot of discussion about the global unrest and a lot of discussion about the Christian influence on that global unrest and what Christ's influence was in the unrest in his day politically. The Jews were not happy about having Roman oppression and Roman dominance over them, and they had enough say that there had to be an agreement on the punishment of Christ or the crucifixion of Christ. But there's this wanting to throw off any restraints that others would put on me, while at the same time feeling I need to put restraints on others who need to stay between the lines of the road of good things and stay off of the road of bad things. Now, everything in our lives, every day of our lives, we face issues that can cause us to be disturbed and distressed and not feel peace, feel anxiety and worry and fear and all these things. Some of them are related to just, am I making enough money to pay my bills? If I'm not, what on earth am I going to do with trying to balance an imbalanced budget? And sometimes that can make us kind of testy or a little touchy, and might it cause us to pop off at someone and create dispeace for them because they think we're mad with them, and we're not mad with them at all. We're just distressed with our own situation that we don't feel we can manage properly at the moment, but it comes out in shortness, bursts of anger, just get out of my space, whatever. But because we're trying to get our bearings again. But we can actually affect peace in the middle of a significantly different sets of opinions between the two people. I can choose peace even if the other person that I'm having this disagreement with doesn't. My peace, in other words, is not dependent on you or your opinion of me or anything you can make me do or keep me from doing that I shouldn't in your opinion, because I don't have to live in your bondage. And your bondage to me, as I observe you, is making a list of things that you can't do that don't really matter, or making a list of things that you should do that don't really matter. They're the extraneous pieces that we pull into the mainstream of life, and we make big issues out of nothing. All right? So let's say that peace is defined as a state of tranquility that's completely devoid of conflict. Now, how likely is that to occur today for you all day long? Now, I know I can't speak for you, but I've lived long enough that I think what I'm saying is probably true of you, but it is for sure true of me. There's a good chance I'm going to encounter someone today that's doing something I think they shouldn't, and even if they can't hear my words at them, I'll have some cross words going out toward them. I'm in the privacy of my own automobile. You can't hear me screaming. Or I'm going to encounter somebody who's just discourteous on the highway or cuts in line at the grocery store. There's a 90-some% chance that every day I'm going to encounter some kind of conflict, something that would cause me to be distressed or angry or upset at someone else for something they're doing, while at the same time I may be doing the same things and they're quietly cursing me. But Jesus gave us an example that transcends all of this natural human spirit stuff. Now, as just a man, with just a human connection to God, that I was birthed to life in His providence, and I'm related to Him because He actually gave me life, but I still conduct all of my affairs without His help. Well, we learn to grow up and be responsible, and that's what it's about. Doing the right things, not doing the things you're not supposed to do, and be a person of character does mostly right and very little wrong. The higher your character, the more things you do right according to the total list, not just your own wish list of goods, but even the society and culture's definitions. So sometimes we stretch ourselves to try to abide by a set of rules that we don't really want to adopt, but our community kind of does, and they expect us to, so we will go along. Well, Jesus comes on the scene, and now, obviously, there have been wars in probably every generation since the beginning of man. And a lot of times they're wars over religious things, we say, but it really boils down to they're wars over faith. And faith is only defined properly, as I see it, as what do I believe to be true and therefore needs to be defended or obeyed. Okay, so whether I have a religious icon, a god of some faith, or whether I just have faith in my own conscience and list of rules that I make, then there's still this, shall I say, a frame of reference for defining good and evil and good people and bad people and people of character and people who lack character. So a lot of the things, though, that I used to define those, I've stopped defining them in that way, but it was because of an encounter that I had with Jesus Christ. Now, I had enough problems before I met Jesus, but it seemed like once I prayed the prayer of salvation and became born again, I felt like I had even more obligations and more things I had to be aware of than just the normal everyday human things, because now I'm also trying to please my new lover Jesus and God, and live in ways that would satisfy their idea of good character and good conduct. Well, the problem is that as a human, I have enough selfishness in me that I'm still going to create conflict with some people with whom I cannot agree. So, peace is a choice, and I can go a long way toward living a peaceful, almost tranquil existence by keeping my mouth shut a lot, by hearing the other person out and trying to understand why they believe what they believe, even if I can't agree with it. There are techniques that we get in training in psychology and psychiatry and sociology and all these things. And how do we get along with each other and minimize the disturbance and maximize the peace? Well, God in his magnificent wisdom lets man live for thousands of years before he introduces himself in the person of his son onto the plane of human existence. For all those thousands of years, it was people were aware of God, maybe tried to worship God, but it was at best a distant relationship, and one more of king to subjects of his kingdom than love affairs between two intimate lovers who have fallen on all over each other and are going to go to an altar and commit their lives to each other. But Jesus came to put this whole thing on its head, to turn it right side up, shall we say, because man was living upside down. Evil is just live, L-I-V-E, spelled backward, E-V-I-L. Well, living backward is living selfishly, myopically, only being concerned about what happens to Bob. In a marital relationship, when we fall in love with somebody, those of us who have, we know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, later you probably will. Bottom line is, we can't do enough to please the one we've fallen in love with. And in the honeymoon years, there's a great deal of peace in the marriage. But if we let it drift into ho-hum, now we're stuck with each other, well, we're not having as much fun as we were in the early days. Now we got kids and we got all sorts of things to deal with, and we get short with each other and all these other things. We kind of pollute that. But the natural human tendency is we still try to control everything. And when you're trying to control everything and you can't control some things, you will not be at peace until you let go of having to control that thing or that person or whatever. Now, a lot of my dis-peace, probably most of it, over the entire course of my life, was sourced in if what you did actually embarrassed me or not. Or your verbal disagreement was something that I believed made me look foolish. It was about how people were viewing me. Well, when I finally understood as a Christian that when Jesus stood before the people who were falsely accusing him of things that were worthy of being crucified, he didn't say a word. He didn't respond to it. Excuse me. He didn't try to defend himself. He came, he had a mission, he was going to perform it, and part of that required that he silently accept the false statements and the punishment for doing wrong that he never did wrong. But the glory of what happened is when he went to the cross as an innocent man, he was able to substitutionally take our penalty on him. And by faith, when we come to him and establish that born-again relationship, he does something magnificent in the peace category. Bob's spirit will always create some kinds of conflicts and some kinds of small wars, if not big ones. But when we come to Christ and we're born again, he said, I put my Holy Spirit inside of you with your own Bob spirit. And if you let my Holy Spirit take control and you let go of the control, you can have peace when everyone else is twisted. You can be at peace when there's so much disturbance and carnage and, storms and storms of life activities, that you can be at peace if you just sit down, be still, and wait for my Holy Spirit to handle the situation and guide you through it. He wants to keep you at peace, but the only way you'll get that peace is to actually trust him, that he's actually from God, he actually is God, living inside of you, and he can handle every situation in a way that his Father wants done, not necessarily what Bob wants done. Well, for me, the peace really began to flood in as I really became so enamored with God and my relationship with him that I always wanted, for whatever's going on in my life, to somehow serve his purposes. And his purpose is primarily this: to love me without any conditions on my behavior, my attitude, or my motivations. And he does that. Well, when I finally felt that, I finally came to the place, you couldn't make me ever believe he didn't love me enormously, even on my bad days. Peace began to flow and almost overwhelm me. And now it's like, whoa. No matter what strikes me, no matter how aggravating or miserable the circumstance, I react like anyone when you get hit by the wall of water of a tidal wave. But within a few moments, usually less than a minute, I have gone back and said, this is your deal, Holy Spirit. I'm going to watch you and listen to you and let you guide me through this, and I don't need to be all shook up about it. It's already happened. I can't stop it, but I can rest in you. Come unto me, all the labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. When I come unto him and I give him my load, I can rest. And you can too. This is Bob Clarkson, and that's what I think is so.